Hey everybody, it's Joel. I'm here in my hot pink bedroom with the big black polka dots, and it's time for a weekly update on the Dryden experiment. And man, have we had a week! We've been trying to sort of move these meetings around the clock a little bit because we got folks around the world who've been joining in and joining us. And this is the first one in several weeks in USA time, and it fell on Friday night. So it looks like it's just Tracy and I, but that's fine because we just like to see Dryden folks out partying on a Friday night. I guess I don't have a good explanation for that. The very first thing that we want to talk about this week is Don Van Osdol on the 4th of July spent the day in a booth at Salmon Days in Salmon, Idaho. Plug in Dryden. He had books on the table, and he had our introductory materials, and he had the movie that he's working on about the fate of the crew of the Dusky Lady. And he stood out there in the sun and the weather and shook hands and kissed babies for us. So, Don Van Osdol, the shout out goes to you. Awesome stuff. All right. Tracy, I'm just going to kind of go on. When you hit something that you want to jump in on, please just jump right in.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of ramble through. We had a really fantastic week this week. It's unbelievable what's going on in Dryden. So let's just party through this. As most of you will probably already know, Dryden has started other genres, other shared worlds, so that artists and authors who are not particularly fans of science fiction, which is where we started, can get on board. And the first one of those that we developed was our steampunk universe, Dryden Steam. You can find it on Facebook, Dryden Steam, and amazing things are happening in Dryden Steam. The first artist that I spoke to was Mikey Vessa from Germany. She had some fantastic art that she was doing in the steampunk genre. And when I talked to her, she said, yeah, well, I want to have a city and I want to have blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, you should do it in Dryden Steam. And she said, sure. And so she started the city of Coalbridge and started doing some art in the city of Coalbridge. And I've started doing short stories with her. We now have 3 or 4 pieces of art and 2 short stories. I've committed to a third one. And that will become a book called Welcome to Coalbridge, I think, that will come out in 2016. So we've got. I'm sorry, Tracy. Did you want in on that?
Are we still inviting people to write stories based on the pictures?
You know, we're absolutely inviting people to come on in and join and help develop Coalbridge. And certainly, if you look at that picture and you want to write something, go for it. If we get enough other authors, then we'll do a sort of not a concordance. What's the word I'm looking for? Compilation book with production
like an
anthology. See, I had all of the letters except completely different. We'll do an anthology, and if we don't, then it'll be my short stories and her art. But yeah, if you like that stuff, come in. Coalbridge is under the Creative Commons, and of course, the more different authors and artists we have working on a project, the better. So that's Coalbridge, and Coalbridge lives in 1870s in whatever the parallel equivalent of England is. Well, Mikey said, you know, you need to talk to my friend Anya. Because my friend Anya writes steampunk and is published in German. So I got on the phone with Anya this week. And Anya has 7 books that she's published in. Her setting is in Baden-Baden in Germany in the 1910s. And it's a very interesting steampunk environment with a little bit of kind of a dark horror kind of a feel to it. Ether has been seeping up out of the ground, and on one hand it's very cool and you can do things with it like fly your Zeppelin, and on the other hand it causes people to mutate and turn into weir animals and things like that. So she's got a really fascinating environment, very cool, and the conversation that ended up happening was, you know, Coalbridge and Baden-Baden can be on the same timeline. They're separated by 30 years, and we're, of course, very loose and open to working together with folks. And at the upshot, Anya ended up putting her Baden-Baden stories in the Creative Commons in Dryden Steam. And Dryden House, which is Tracy and I's publishing company, has reserved the rights to. I'm sorry, how many did I say?
You said Tracy and me and Gavin.
Yes, Tracy, Gavin, and I. I'm sorry, Gavin was fairly new to us and slipped out. Sorry, Gavin. Should we start over? I think you'll be all right. Anyway, Dryden House, which is the three of us, committed to doing the English language version of the first one, and we translated the first chapter already this week, and it's back with Anya for review, and she's given it a favorable initial review. She looked at it and liked it, and hopefully over the course of the next maybe 2 years or so, we'll bring all 7 books to print in Dryden Steam in English. It's a really great opportunity for us. She's a fabulous person to work with. I really enjoyed the chapter that I translated this week, and look forward to getting into those stories. You know, Tracy always talks about how greedy she is for books. Well, I've got that whole book in a foreign language on my computer right now, and it just makes me crazy that I have to go do other things like have a life, and I can't just sit down around translating it all day. Anya has then put us in touch with Stephen. Stephen makes movies in steampunk in German.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next week because we haven't had a chance to talk to Stephen yet, but she feels like that there's further development available for Dryden Steam moving into video. So we may just be developing Dryden Steam faster than anyone can imagine. My personal goal is to get an MMO in Coalbridge and be able to drop in a character with the top hat on and hike around the city. So please, if you're interested in MMOs, if you like developing computer software, give us a call. Our model absolutely will allow you to make your own revenue off of that. You can develop and build and take your own money out of it, and we'll help you grow it. So come talk to us. I want the MMO. I want to walk around in a steampunk city in my steampunk character with the Zeppelins flying overhead. So somebody make that happen.
Just
all right.
Don't be the accordion player.
Just don't be the accordion player. The accordion player dies in the end, you guys. Just be aware of that. Tracy's read that story. That was the second story that came out of Coalbridge. A musician that played at restaurants in the evening got replaced by a mechanical musician and got into an argument with it and lost.
Yeah, he lost already.
Yeah, that story is available for free out on Dryden Steam on Facebook. If you pop by out there, you can see it. All right. We also had a meeting for Rise of the Europan. I'm switching now into Dryden Universe, which is the science fiction genre. And Rise of the Europan is, I need to say the same word again, and I've now lost it. Anthology. Is an anthology of stories. There's an important moment that happens in 2600 in the science fiction future where the alien that lives on the bottom of Europa, which is one of the moons of Jupiter, rises up and drives humans off the planet, and then pretty much out of the rest of the solar system too. It's a very bad day to be a human. Very bad week to be a human. And we have now a total of 6 authors who are working. We've broken it up. Rather than trying to have a single novel that runs all the way through, we're sort of telling vignettes, and each of the authors is telling a vignette. I've read some fabulous stuff. I read some stuff by Eugene Kelly that was awesome. Dan Hunt, who has written with us before, submitted a short story for that collection that's absolutely awesome. Tracy herself is working on a very interesting story that will probably end up at the end. I'm really enjoying seeing that story develop. It's a very cool story. We've just got a really, really great cast. Kitty Sarkozy is working on that project. Damien Rocha is working on that project. Don, our hero of the Salmon River Days, is working on that project. It's just a great project, and it's going very well. I think we're probably not really looking for new authors at this point. I think we've got the crew that we want. Damien Rocha sent a map of Europa that he got from NASA, the surface map, so that the authors could start working on where on the surface they were working and what was going on. Tremendous connections going on. You know, Dryden functions by those connections, and all of those authors are really kind of riffing on each other and feeding back and forth, and it's very exciting. I still think that we will publish that book in 2015. There will be questions that Tracy will have to answer about whether or not we can support it and get completely behind it in time. But I do think it'll happen in 2015. I'm going to go ahead, and we've got a couple other things going on in the science fiction experiment, and I'm going to go ahead and cover those before I move over and Tracy maybe have you talk a little bit about Lorelei.
Sure.
So the other thing that happened this week, or maybe last week now, I've kind of lost track of time, is I've got the full text of Big Damn Dryden, which is the role-playing game being built by Owlman Press, Nick Mall in Ballarat, Australia, in my hands. It's wonderful. We're putting last-minute details in it. Nick has asked me for some character descriptions. I still owe him a couple of those. They're coming, Nick. They're coming. Gavin Revitt, our art director, is working on the cover. I got a first glance at the cover today or yesterday, and it looks fabulous. It was just immediately I was arrested by the image. I went, whoa. There's a assassin in the primer named Mrs. Okuda, and Mrs. Okuda's secret is that she has nanobots in her brain that erase her memories. So she can go perform an assassination for you, and then the robots clean her memory, and there's not a probe or memory scanning device in the world that can get data out of her because her brain has lost it. And there's Damien Rocha. I was just speaking about you a minute ago. Damien, how are you this evening?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing awesome. If I'd have known you were coming, I'd have waited to talk about Rise of the Europa until you got here. This is Damien Rocha. Damien is writing an awesome story about the Geist Marines, which are the TerraCore Marines originally developed by Dan Hunt. And they are on Europa when the Europan rises. It's pretty intense stuff. I've read the first, I think, maybe 400 or 500 pages of that, or 400, 500 words of that story, and it's off to a great start. Damien, is there anything that you'd like to add or point out or talk about working with your cohorts in crime on that story, or your sense of how that book is going?
I think not just for my story, but it seems like overall things seem to be going pretty well. Looks like people are meshing overall, and the group is coming together so far.
You know, I agree. I have said twice now when emails were going around about it that I'm staying out of it. I feel like that the six of you have a tremendous sense of what you're doing and are working together really, really well, and I'm glad to step in when I'm needed, but that creative synthesis, you know, Kitty Sarkozy was emailing you this morning and saying, you know, where would the Geist Marines be? Who would be with them? How would we do? Blah, 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 blah. And that creativity, that's the Creative Commons. That's what we're trying to do. And I'm really excited about that book and really feel like you guys are doing very, very well.
Yeah, it's fun. So far, I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I've never done anything like this before, and so it's interesting just to feel it all out for the first time.
I can't say enough awesome things about how I think you guys are doing. I think it's going to be a really great book, and I think it's going to be a really enjoyable read. So, yep, wonderful, wonderful stuff. Damien Rocha, thank you very much for joining us this evening. All right, so we were talking about Big Damn Dryden. Tracy, was I done talking about Big Damn Dryden? I've seen the cover.
You've seen the cover.
Great.
Looks great. You're giving Nick his character sketches. And play tests are coming. Play tests are scheduled. Oh,
Right.
Have you put out that you need like people to do like pencil sketches for the interior?
Pencils? Oh, yes. Okay, let's go ahead and just solicit for that right here. Inside of Big Damn Dryden, we will have these character descriptions that we've talked about, and we'll also have places where we're talking about like what spaceborne combat looks like, and how the corporations work, and so on and so forth. And we want to put maybe 5 pencil sketches in there that kind of match up to, excuse me, to what we're talking about. I'd like to just buy them outright, and I'm talking like $10 a sketch. You know, we're not a big money outfit at all. I had one artist that we'd worked with before who I thought their work was appropriate. I haven't heard back from him, so absolutely, if somebody would like to kind of get in and do, and literally, I'm just talking light sketching. I don't know how many role-playing games you've seen, but occasionally you'll see one that really goes kind of nuts, like Pathfinder with the interior art, but more often you just kind of get a light sketch to help kind of create a visual image to go with the mental image of the game. I'm looking to buy maybe 5 of those, maybe 7 of those, sort of depending on the shakeout. We could do it from multiple authors. Or artists. I have a couple of images that are already in Dryden that we could use, and maybe just 2 or 3 more if somebody just wanted to add a couple more. But we are looking for some interior art if somebody would like to help us get some of that. So thank you very much, Tracy. Yes, that is absolutely something that we're still working on.
So I'm not completely disconnected.
To understand that comment, Tracy's internet service was gone for 48 hours, and it's hard to believe that we ever survived that way back in the Stone Ages. Kill a woolly mammoth and go home and watch your regular television. It was rough back then, but she survived and is still with us, so we are glad she's back. I just wanted to mention very briefly that I'm working on Book 2 of Alder's World. Book 1 is currently available out on Amazon and everywhere else. It is set in the primer of the science fiction universe, and I just want to plug myself a little bit. Alder's World Book 2 is going well, and everybody should stop what they're doing and buy Book 1 so that they'll understand where we are. I understand this Game of Thrones thing is distracting some people from my work, but that was a joke. Everybody should laugh because Game of Thrones is 50 billion times more popular than Alder's World. All right. Thank you. I feel better now. And I got a smile out of Damien, too. All right.
Yeah, you can't see my smile.
No, because you're a Sith Lord. What's that, Damien?
Everyone should go read it, though. I agree. Yes, go read Alder's World.
Thank you very much. All right. There we go. A plug for Alder's World. And
I'll
Damien,
be honest, I started reading one of the copies that you sent from a party, and then I felt guilty.
As long as the words didn't disappear as you were reading,
Well,
but I guess
they
we're
didn't, but then I was thinking, man, this person's not going to get a virgin book. Now I feel bad. So I stopped reading.
Just don't tell them. Just for a teaser for you, Damien, Book 2 picks up 10 years later, and the water has all condensed out of the atmosphere, and they are now the ship is now trapped in the ocean, and they are living sort of half underwater. Only the very top of the ship is exposed, and so they have a whole new set of crises because now the ship is trying to drown them all. So that won't mean anything to folks who haven't read the book, but to those who have, we actually pick up 10 years later with Book 2. So then if you've been following us on Facebook, you will have seen quite a bit of material about Eclipsing of Cyrus C by Dan Hunt. Dan is the one who invented the Geist Marines, who get talked about so much because they're totally kick-ass. And Dan has set an entire novel in the Dryden Experiment primer. I don't know what year it happens in. I guess we sort of assume it's in 2503, which is our current time. It probably says in there, and I just didn't pay any attention. But Dan has picked, for this story, a kind of an out-of-the-way, not one of the big 3 corporations set of planets. There's the Federation and, boy, are they called the Conclave? I've lost the word. But our hero is, again, a Marine, a female Marine this time, who serves in the Federation Army, and they are struggling to remain independent from the major corporations, and also get mixed up with an alien technology. I think the thing that I enjoyed most about that book is that it took a lot of the kind of gimmies. You know, you sort of get formula stories, and you're like, oh, well, X is about to happen, and then it didn't happen. The story went, oh, well, if that's what's going on, then we need to turn to the right and head off in a new direction. I'd go, okay, well, that's all right, that's good. And then we get to sort of another critical moment where you're going, yeah, of course, because that's formula, and he wouldn't do it. He can continue to sort of challenge me with some creative storytelling. And if you've ever read any of Dan's other stuff, Revenge or Lucky Man or any of those things, you know that he's a pretty solid storyteller. So I really recommend that. Eclipsing of Cyrus C. I don't have a release date yet, but I know that we're very close. Dan was working on final proofs, which is what we've got posted on Facebook, is the final proof image, which was designed by our very own Gavin Revitt, by the way. That cover was done by Gavin. All right, so then the other thing that happened is about, what, 6 weeks ago now, 8 weeks ago now, Greta van der Rohe, who is an artist from northeastern Australia, or an author rather from northeastern Australia, got interested in Dryden and published a short story. Tracy, do you have the name of the short story?
Demon's Eye is the one that she published with us, and then
there we go.
She it was actually a spin-off of another book called A Matter of Trust, which she then placed in the Dryden universe also.
So that's just fabulous. Our universe grew by a novel one Thursday. We didn't know that was going to happen, but it did. So Greta, thank you very much for that. I haven't read that. I have read Demon's Eye, which is the spin-off of it, and I really enjoyed Demon's Eye. The location that she's working in, she's not in the primer. She's out there in Belle Epoque, The Age of Beauty, and she asked for sort of a piece of space that she could tell her stories in. She has an empire and kingdoms and governments and so on and so forth, and she asked for the M20 star cluster, which is a real thing, a real collection of stars sort of out on the Milky Way, and she wanted it about 20,000 years in the future, so it wasn't closely related to anything going on in the primer, and we said, all right. So any of you who are looking to develop and not particularly attracted to the primer, like a little bit more, I don't want to say Star Wars kind of feel, but a little softer on the science fiction and not so heavy on the corporate espionage sort of angle, Demon's Eye is actually a romance, which made Tracy very happy, I think. We encourage you to get a hold of a copy of A Matter of Trust or Demon's Eye and get to know Greta's environments and get out there and do some development out there. Demon's Eye was really a very enjoyable. It was longer than a story. I think we'd probably call it a novella. Would you say, Tracy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to say we were somewhere around 24,000 words maybe. So
Somewhere.
Longer than a short story and definitely worth picking up. All right, and I think that's everything I have to say about the science fiction in Dryden universe. Did I miss anything, Tracy?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
All right. It's gotten to be such a big universe, it's easy to miss stuff. Sorry if I'm missing anything, folks. Leave me a comment here below, and I'll come back and be all apologetic next week and make sure I cover it. And then the other big one we want to talk about, and I'm actually just going to turn it over to Tracy and let her talk about it, is we are getting ready for cover reveal and pre-release promotion for Lorelei You'll Never Die. Go for it, Tracy.
Yeah, the cover reveal is actually going to be on July 20th. We have a Google Doc that you can fill out. That all it will do is give me your email address, essentially.
The link is below.
And it will let me know what your social media links are, and I can get the information to you, and you can post it up. It will, if you have a blog, you can put it on a blog. If you don't have a blog and you just want to put it up on Facebook or on Twitter, there'll be the information and the picture of the cover there, so that way we can go ahead and get her book out there so that people can see it. And then the actual release date will be August 20th. There's also an option in the Google Doc for you to sign up for what we call a release day blitz, which is just the day that it comes out. We just spam social media and the blogs, and you just put it out there saying, hey, here it is, it's out there, here are the links to purchase it. And there's also an option that if you want to get an early copy, which is called an advanced reader copy or an ARC, you can sign up for that as well, because she's optioned to have 25 to hand out, and all you have to do is read it, and then the day that it's released on August 20th, just post a review on your retailer of choice in Goodreads.
Awesome stuff. And I want to just mention that story is the first book in our Dryden APOC, which is our post-apocalypse genre, and it's a lot of fun. You know, it's the world in chaos and madness and radiation everywhere, and people wandering around behaving like it's the end of the earth, and also some sort of interesting kind of, I guess, sort of supernatural or maybe alien influence kind of elements. There are some elements in that story that are a little bit hard to explain, but she writes this. If you've ever read Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury, some of her stories have that kind of, we're not quite in the same reality. There's maybe something a little magical or mysterious going on.
What's interesting is that it could either be something magical or it could just be delusional.
Right, we're not exactly
sure. She leaves it open. Yeah. You really don't know if there's something actually out there doing this, or something out of extraordinary to doing something like this, or if it's just a matter of delusion because of the fact that it is an extermination war and nuclear bombs have gone off, and if it's just people actually becoming delusional because of it. So you don't know.
It's got this kind of interesting edge to it, and then when she gets to the climax of the story, she just knuckles down. I was sitting up in my chair, leaned over the monitor, really tied into it for I don't know how long that climax sequence lasted, 20 or 30 pages maybe, but when I got done with it, I was like, whew, okay, I think I need to go get a drink of water or something. So it's an exciting book, and I really, really, really want to encourage people to get into the promotional efforts. Half of the reason why Dryden is important is because as easy as it is to get into the market, it's very hard to get attention to your work, and a real key component of what we do is cross-promote each other and Twitter each other and Facebook each other. Greta Van der Rohe's books are not published by Dryden. Dan Hunt's books are not published by Dryden, but we're right here plugging them because we believe that cooperatively we, the authors, can get into the market and get that attention drawn. And so I want to encourage everybody, not just with Lorelei You'll Never Die, actually, which is what we're talking about right now, but with all of the Dryden books. If you see one, Twitter about it. If you read one, post a review on Amazon, share it on Facebook, give a copy to your aunt. It is that cooperative endeavor all the way from how we build books to how we market books.
Tag other Dryden people in it so we can do the same thing.
Right. We will absolutely chain tag and chain like and comment and share, just because it's Dryden and we're all working together. So I really, really wanted to plug that. All right, well, I talked really fast for 28 minutes and reached the end of my list. Damien, do you have questions, comments? You're actually you're a long-time kind of follower, but you're kind of new to the actual Dryden experiment. Or Dryden experience. You want to talk about what it's like working with Dryden, or ask questions that you have about anything having to do with Dryden, or how can we help you?
I don't really have any questions right now. I saw something about this on Facebook, and I figured I'd just join in and check it out. You mentioned The Demon's Eye.
Yes.
And I actually just read that earlier this evening. I read it all in one sitting.
So it's a really good book, isn't it?
I liked it. It was not the sort of thing I typically read. I'm not really into romance, but there was enough action, and I really enjoyed the story. I got into it very quickly, and I just finished it. So.
That's awesome. That's the greatest thing. I finished the monologue about we should all be cooperatively supporting each other, and Damien goes, "Yeah, I just read it." Ah! Awesome.
That's just a very happy coincidence. That worked out well.
I now owe Damien $5.
For me, the best books are the books that fuse a lot of different genres together. I mean, he says all the time, it has romance in it, Tracy must be happy. Not necessarily true. I've read some really crappy romances. But the best books fuse a lot of different genres, and I think Greta's does a really good job of putting in a very suspenseful situation and then throws a little romance in there, too, because, I mean, that stuff happens.
Right. I think my experience was very much like Damien's. If you'd have said to me, "Oh, well, this is sci-fi romance," I kind of probably would have gone, are. But I got in there and I read it, and I really enjoyed the sci-fi. And the romance didn't really move me or turn me off. It did definitely have a strong romantic element and sort of followed sort of classical romance construction. But as Tracy says, it was an enjoyable mixing of the genres. I enjoyed that story, and it was a romance story. All right. No harm done by the adding of romance, and definitely the sci-fi held me. And Greta is just a good storyteller. I think one of the things is that when you get a hold of somebody who's a good storyteller, in some ways it doesn't really matter what the genre is, because you get to the end and you go, that was a pretty good story. All right, wonderful. Anything else for us, Damien?
Not that I can think of. I haven't done anything tonight, but I do plan on doing more for that map that I sent everyone for the Rise of the Europa project.
Wonderful.
Point a little color arrow out away and say Aurelia that way. My story is not on Europa. It is out there. It's somewhere else. Aurelia that way. Like hang a left, so many 100 light years, and you'll hit it. Turn at the tree at the fork in the road.
Right, or the black hole next to the constellation, whatever.
Right.
I want to pause. I'm going to ask Tracy for any last-minute updates before we end this. The one thing that we desperately need is a better web presence. Our universe is growing literally books per week, and we are not doing a good job of keeping resources out in front of people so they can understand where we are. Rise of the Europan happens in the primer, and no less than all 6 of the authors involved have asked me questions about the primer because they just can't get at the data. We're well aware of that problem. We know it's a big deal. What I would really like to have is sort of a dynamic spreadsheet or very simple database structure where you could sort of enter a key fact or location and then keyword it by genre, by year, by blah, 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 so that somebody else who wanted to come along and just say, well, what's the primer like, could pull up a whole sort of laundry list of interesting things about the primer, or ask about a particular planet, or et cetera, et cetera. And you could do something really sophisticated with like an interactive map with a slider underneath it so that you could move forward in time or switch genres and switch maps as you flip genres, or you could do something very simple that was just sort of a searchable XML file or something. But we really desperately need one, and if someone will build one, they can have all of the AdSense revenue that they can generate off of it. I've got to have one. I can purchase domains for someone if they want me to go ahead and purchase the domains, and they just do the website. But somebody come forward and propose a solution to me, and we'll run you a revenue stream off of it somehow. We've got to have it, and it's really technically beyond me. So my 2 wish list items are the MMO so that I can walk around in Dryden Steam, and the web page. What is it I've been rambling about? The web presence. We have got to fix our web presence, and we've got to do it soon. So I've put some calls out to some folks that I thought might be interested parties, and I've yet to get that bite. And I guess we also are looking for images for Big Damn Dryden. And then, of course, we're always open on the front end. If you've got a story, if you've got a genre, if you've got something that you think belongs in our universe, always give me a holler. You can find me on Facebook. I'm Joel Stottlemyre. We are Dryden Experiment at Yahoo, DRYDENEXPERIMENT at Yahoo. And then I said I was going to ask Tracy if she had any other things. What have we missed? My goodness.
I missed 3 days, so I don't know.
All right, Tracy. Tracy was out of the loop. She's still got that woolly mammoth in her backyard. All right, well, I think we're going to go ahead and cut it. If you two want to stick around and chat for a little while, of course, you're welcome to do so. I love that part. But I'm going to stop broadcasting because I think that's the update for Dryden for the week of July 10th. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We are having a ball. All right. And we are